She reached for the orange juice, took a sip, and said it like she was reading a recipe off the carton. I don't love you. That's it. No anger. No explanation. No thunderstorm of tears. Just orange juice on her breath and the sound of a ticking wall clock behind her. I stared at my plate. Half-eaten scrambled eggs. Toast going cold. I'd woken up early to make her breakfast. I'd even cut the strawberries into heart shapes. Pathetic, I know. I think I nodded. Or maybe blinked. I couldn't tell. Okay, I said. Thanks for being honest. She kept chewing like nothing happened. And I swear, I could hear something inside me physically break. Not metaphorically. I mean, I felt something snap behind my ribs. Something quiet and final, like a bone you don't even realize cracked until you try to move. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't flip the table. I just looked around the kitchen. The fridge covered in magnets from trips we took together. The tiny calendar she wrote, Ease BDAY, love, on last week. The coffee mug I got her that said, Wifey for lifey. Suddenly, everything looked staged. Like I was a background actor in a play I didn't audition for. She finished her juice, stood up, and walked toward the sink. As she passed me, her shoulder lightly brushed mine. She didn't even flinch. The worst part? I think she expected me to be fine with it. Like I'd just absorbed the hit. Like a doormat with a heartbeat. That day, I didn't go to work. I didn't text my best friend. I sat in the guest bathroom for 2 hours because it was the only room in the house that didn't have a memory of her laughing in it. By dinner, she was humming while setting the table. Like nothing ever happened. No apology. No follow-up. Just chicken and rice in her asking, want lemon water or just plain? That night, as she curled up next to me like she hadn't just ended us, I realized. She didn't say she was sorry. She didn't say it was complicated. She didn't even say goodbye. She just took the love and switched it off like a ceiling fan. And by morning, something else was missing. Not just her kisses. Not just the affection. But her smile. The real one. The one that used to reach her eyes. It had vanished. Like it never existed. But her secrets hadn't vanished. In fact, they were just starting to crawl into the light. The morning after she said it, I don't love you. She acted like she'd simply canceled a dinner plan. She was cheerful. Not fake cheerful. Effortlessly cheerful. Humming as she poured her granola, tossing blueberries into her mouth like she hadn't just emptied the soul of our marriage onto the breakfast table. I watched her from across the room, silently, like I was observing a stranger through a glass window. And for a moment, I started convincing myself I'd imagined the whole thing. That maybe she hadn't really meant it. That maybe she said it during a bad mood, or on impulse, or during some kind of hormone swing. But then I found the receipt. It was buried in the side pocket of her gym bag, the old blue one with the fraying zipper. I only noticed it because I went in to throw out the protein bar wrappers she always left in there. I wasn't snooping. Not yet. At least, not intentionally. But there it was, folded neatly, as if it were meant to be seen. A spa receipt. 2 guests. 1 suite. 1 deep tissue massage package. 1 bottle of imported wine. And the date? 2 Saturdays ago. The same weekend she said she was visiting her sister in Spokane. My hands shook. I looked at the name printed on the booking, reservation under, Damon. Who the hell is Damon? We don't have any friends named Damon. No cousins, no coworkers, nothing. I stood there in the bathroom staring at this little square of paper like it was radioactive. I could barely breathe. My heart didn't pound, it sank. Like someone tied a rock to it and threw it down a dark well. I didn't confront her. Not immediately. Instead, I did something incredibly weak, or smart, depending on how you look at it. I tucked the receipt back in place, zipped the bag carefully, and went to the kitchen like nothing had happened. She was already on her second coffee, scrolling through her phone with her legs tucked under her like a teenager. I watched her fake a giggle at something on the screen. She didn't even notice the tremble in my voice when I said, heading to the store, need anything? She didn't look up. Maybe some oat milk. That was it. She asked for oat milk. Like I was still her husband. Like I still mattered. Like she hadn't spent a weekend in a spa suite with a man whose name made my stomach twist. I went to the car and sat inside for 23 minutes, engine off, just staring at the steering wheel. Not crying. Not yelling. Just trying to make sense of how the woman who once carved our initials into a tree trunk now wanted almond-scented lotion and oat milk while she planned her escape from me. But here's the thing. I didn't leave. I didn't explode. I didn't do anything except drive to the store, buy the damn milk, and come home like a loyal dog that doesn't know he's been abandoned. Because part of me still didn't believe it. Part of me thought, maybe there's a logical explanation. Maybe Damon is her friend's boyfriend, and she was the third wheel. Maybe she won the spa thing in a contest. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm crazy. But deep down, I knew. I knew what the change in her eyes meant. I knew what the silence in bed meant. I knew what the back-facing cuddles meant. I just didn't want to accept it. And I wasn't ready for the truth I'd uncover next. It was the watch that did it. Not the spa receipt. Not the fake smiles. Not the cold shoulders. It was her stupid little pink fitness tracker, the one I bought her for our anniversary last year because she wanted something useful instead of jewelry. The irony still makes my stomach churn. She had no idea I set up her account on my phone when we first installed the app. Said she couldn't figure out how to sync it to hers, so I did it on mine. I forgot about it. She probably did too. But 2 nights after the spa receipt discovery, I couldn't sleep. She was snoring, peacefully, contentedly, like a person with a clean conscience. Meanwhile, I was in bed staring at the ceiling fan, trying not to throw up from the anxiety gnawing my chest. I grabbed my phone just to scroll, distract myself, but that old app was still installed in a folder I hadn't touched in months. I tapped it without thinking. The data loaded slowly, weak Wi-Fi. But when it did, I saw something that didn't make sense. Her heart rate data was spiking every night after midnight. For weeks. On nights, she told me she was exhausted. Nights she'd say, "I'm going to sleep early, babe." But the tracker told a different story. Intense movement, elevated pulse, like she was running a marathon in bed. Or not alone. There was one night in particular that hit me harder than the rest. The night she told me she was at hot yoga with her coworker and came home sore, claiming her hips were killing her. That night, her tracker registered activity at 12:42 a.m. for 46 minutes. Heart rate peaking at 162. No steps logged. No location change. Just high-intensity movement, in place. I checked the location pings. Not the yoga studio. She was at a residential address across town. I looked up the address. Zillow listed it as a single-bedroom condo. My hands went cold. I sat there, in the dark, my wife sleeping 6 inches away from me, with that peaceful mouth-breathing rhythm that used to make me feel safe. And I realized I was sharing a bed with a stranger. A stranger with great cardio, apparently. I didn't say a word the next morning. I made her coffee like I always did. Light cream, no sugar. The way she likes it. She smiled. Said thanks. Kissed my cheek like it wasn't a betrayal. Like I wasn't unraveling inside. But now it wasn't just suspicion. Now I had data. Timestamps. GPS logs. The kind of stuff people present in courtrooms. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Because I knew she'd twist it, gaslight me, play innocent. She's good at that. Brielle? Yeah. I'll name her now. She could win an Oscar for pretending to care. So I did something petty. I stopped wearing the wedding ring. Not because I was ready to leave, but because I wanted her to feel a shift. A fracture. A seed of doubt. She didn't even notice for 2 days. And when she did, she didn't ask why. She just looked at my hand, blinked once, and looked away. That was it. Not a single word. That told me more than anything else could. She was done, not just emotionally, but spiritually. The part of her that fought for us was long gone. That night, I logged back into the fitness tracker and stared at the screen like it was an oracle. And it told me something I wasn't ready to hear. The next session was already scheduled. Her heart would spike again tomorrow. At a location I'd never been invited to. With someone who definitely wasn't me. I wasn't planning to follow her. I really wasn't. I had told myself, over and over, that I was just going to let it all play out. Wait for her to trip, for the lie to unravel on its own. But when she told me she was working late for the second time in a week, I swear something primal took over. She said it casually, while tying her shoelaces. Didn't even look me in the eye. Just said, "Don't wait up, we've got a late team project review." But I already knew the truth. The fitness app showed she'd hit her cardio window right around 8:30 p.m. at that same mystery condo. Like clockwork. So, I waited 10 minutes after she left. Not too soon. Didn't want to make it obvious. I grabbed my keys, pulled on a hoodie, and followed at a distance. I'm not proud of how my hands trembled. My stomach felt like it was folding in on itself. Part of me hoped I'd be wrong. That I'd follow her to an actual office and feel like a jealous fool. That I'd owe her a massive apology and we'd laugh about it someday. That part of me was dead by the time I saw her car pull into that dim little condo complex. She didn't hesitate. She parked like she'd done it 100 times. Walked up to unit number 7 like she had a key, and she probably did. I stayed 2 cars back, lights off, engine low, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself breathe. I watched her knock once and smile when the door opened. I couldn't see the guy's face clearly. Just a tall silhouette, bald, athletic frame, probably younger than me. She stepped inside without looking back. I sat there in the car for 38 minutes. Not moving, not thinking, just letting the weight of it all crash into me like wave after wave after wave. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't drive off. I stared at that closed door like it was some cursed portal. And just when I thought I'd seen enough, something happened that broke whatever part of me was still clinging to denial. The blinds shifted, just slightly, and I saw them. Not just their shadows, them. Her hands on his chest, his lips against her neck, her eyes closed like she was exactly where she belonged. That was the same expression she used to make when we'd lie in bed on Sunday mornings, before work and resentment ruined everything. I gripped the steering wheel so hard it left dents in my palms. And still, I didn't move, because I didn't know what to do. Do I storm in and drag her out? Call the cops? Knock on the door like a pathetic husband who's finally catching up to reality? None of those things felt like me. Not anymore. When she finally came out, an hour and 16 minutes later, she looked lighter, hair messy, jacket unzipped. That glow she hadn't worn in months suddenly radiating off her like perfume. She didn't even check her phone as she walked to her car. Didn't pause. Didn't glance around. She was that comfortable, that confident I'd never catch her. She drove off, and I followed, but not home. I made a turn halfway and pulled into the dark parking lot of an old gas station that had been shut down for years. I sat there for who knows how long. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, barely recognizing the man looking back. I looked broken, hollow. Not because she cheated, but because deep down, I think I'd been preparing for it. What I didn't know yet, what I couldn't possibly guess, was that this man, this Damon, wasn't some random affair. No, this wasn't her first betrayal. And it wasn't the worst one either. She had been planning something far, far bigger, and I was walking straight into it. I don't know how long I stood staring at my phone after the unknown number flashed across the screen. It was 7:12 a.m., barely light outside. I hadn't slept. My body felt like it had been dragged through wet concrete. When the call came in, I almost didn't answer. I didn't have the strength, but something told me I should. Some buried instinct whispered, "This is going to be bad." And it was. "Mr. Greaves? This is Elijah Pierce. I'm an attorney representing your wife, Brielle. I was hoping we could speak briefly this morning. She mentioned she hasn't had the chance to speak with you yet, but I wanted to go over a few procedural items." That's where my mind stopped processing. Attorney? Procedural items? My mouth went dry. I cleared my throat and asked, in the weakest voice imaginable, what this was about. "I believe your wife is preparing to initiate a legal separation and eventual divorce. Nothing adversarial at this time. Just some paperwork and preliminary disclosures. She asked that I send you the materials directly." That was it. That was the moment I realized just how deep her betrayal had gone. She didn't even have the decency to talk to me first. No argument. No conversation. No last attempt to fix it. She had sent a lawyer to be her voice, like I was some distant problem to be solved by documents, and not a person she once vowed to grow old with. I didn't yell at the guy. I didn't ask questions. I just said, "Okay," and hung up. My hands were shaking. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, but it wasn't anger. It was humiliation. Not only had she replaced me emotionally and physically, she was now erasing me legally. And I was the last to know. I walked into the kitchen and saw her sitting there. Calm. Hair in a bun. Reading the same morning blog she always read. A travel site, ironically, one we used to dream about contributing to together. I just stared at her, waiting, hoping she'd say something. Anything. But she didn't. She looked up after a while and said, "Morning," like it was any other day. No mention of the call. No mention of the man she snuck off to last night. No explanation. Just morning. I asked her, "So, your lawyer beat you to it?" She paused, tilted her head like she didn't understand, then nodded slowly. "I didn't think you'd want to talk about it. Didn't think I'd want to talk about it. Like I was some guest in her Airbnb divorce fantasy. Like I wasn't entitled to a single explanation after a decade of loyalty. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat down across from her and asked, "Why?" Her eyes flickered, but only for a second. "It just stopped feeling like a marriage," she said. "It started feeling like a routine. You were always so soft, so predictable." Damon challenges me. He makes me feel alive. I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. There it was. "You were always so soft." It was the line that echoed for days afterward. She said it like it was a flaw, like kindness and reliability were punishable crimes. Like the reason she slipped into someone else's bed and hired a lawyer behind my back was because I had the audacity to love her gently. But what she didn't know, what she still doesn't know, is that while she was planning her clean exit, I was already documenting, tracking, recording, and her neat little legal plan, it had a few holes. Holes I was now very ready to explore. Because if she wanted a clean break, she should have picked a man who didn't know where all the bodies were buried. And her next surprise? Let's just say it wouldn't come from a bouquet or a text. It would arrive in the form of a counterclaim. I didn't sleep much after that. I didn't even try. I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad and a pen I didn't use, staring at the divorce packet Brielle had left on the counter like it was a takeout menu. She didn't hand it to me. She didn't explain it. Just slid it there, neat and deliberate, before leaving for yoga. Yoga, or, more likely, another cardio-intensive visit to Damon's mattress. I didn't touch the papers. Not right away. What I did instead was grab my laptop, open a private browser, and log into something I hadn't thought about in over a year, the joint savings platform we set up together during the pandemic. A digital high-yield account with quarterly bonuses and investment options, the kind of thing couples do when they believe in forever. We set it up together. But she forgot one detail. She used my email as the recovery contact. It took less than 2 minutes to reset the password, less than 1 to log in. The balance? Over $34,000. That was odd. The last time I checked, it was under $12,000. But that wasn't the worst part. What made my stomach twist was the activity log. 2 large deposits made within the past 3 months, not from her job, but from a separate checking account I didn't recognize. Then a transfer, exactly 2 weeks ago, to another external account labeled B.A. Holdings. B.A. Brielle Ann. Her full name. She'd opened a private business account with our savings. And worse, the notes in the transactions said Legal Separation Fund and Rebrand Development. I sat there frozen, reading those words again and again. Rebrand. Like I was some failed product she was tossing out to launch her new identity. Like she wasn't just leaving. She was erasing me, professionally, financially, emotionally. And she used our rainy day money to do it. But here's where things turned. She hadn't removed my access. She hadn't closed the login loophole. Probably thought I was too passive to ever fight back. Too soft, as she liked to say. I screenshotted everything. Every transfer. Every external account. I even clicked through to see where the B.A. Holdings account was registered. And guess what? It wasn't just a personal fund. It was an LLC, formed 3 weeks ago, filed using my billing address. She'd used my information to set up the infrastructure for her brand new life. And she left a digital trail so sloppy, I almost pitied her. I spent the next 6 hours backing up everything. Paper trail, email alerts, transaction logs. I exported the account activity into a spreadsheet and dropped it in a secure drive I hadn't used since college. Because now it wasn't just personal. It was legal. She was trying to ghost me from a house I helped pay for, using funds I contributed to, hiding behind a name she didn't even bother to distance from mine. She didn't just cheat. She plotted a quiet coup and thought I was too stupid or too loyal to notice. That night, when she came home flushed and glowing, hair pulled up in a lazy bun, she acted like nothing had changed. She reheated soup, asked if I'd signed the forms. I told her not yet. She barely reacted. No concern, no curiosity. I watched her from across the room and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Clarity. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Focus. Because the moment she used my name and our savings to lay bricks for a future that didn't include me, she gave me all the ammo I needed to burn it down. And I knew exactly who to call next. I hadn't spoken to my cousin Wyatt in over a year. The last time we saw each other was at his dad's funeral, where he got too drunk and told off half the family for grieving performatively. That's the kind of guy Wyatt is, sharp-edged, brutally honest, and allergic to anything that smells fake. which is exactly why I called him. He picked up on the second ring. "Elias," he said, voice groggy. "You all right, man?" No, I wasn't. Not even close. But I said, "I need a favor. Big one. No questions at first." There was a pause, then a sigh. "You want me to bury a body or track a bank account?" "Somewhere in between." I met him 2 hours later at his apartment, a minimalist little place that smelled like cold brew and printer ink. He was already pulling up his laptop when I walked in. "Start talking," he said. "Tell me everything. I'm not here to judge." So I did. I laid it all out. The affair, the lawyer, the spa receipts, the fitness tracker data, the hidden LLC, and the joint account she used like it was her personal piggy bank. He didn't interrupt, just typed and scrolled and nodded. Every so often, he'd mutter, "Damn," or "She bold for that." By the end, he leaned back, cracked his neck, and whistled low. "Dude," he said, "she's not just leaving you. She's laundering her exit." That's the word that stuck with me, laundering, because it's exactly what it was. She was whitewashing her betrayal in layers of legality, turning shared money into assets only she could access, dressing her selfishness up in paperwork and polite smiles. Wyatt worked fast. Too fast. Within 20 minutes, he had tracked the LLC filing, found 2 more connected accounts I hadn't seen, and discovered a PayPal business profile she had created 6 months ago using a second email I didn't even know existed. The kicker? That email was connected to a domain, a sleek, professional website in her name. It looked like a brand launch, except I wasn't in the branding photos. No mention of me. No acknowledgement of our marriage. It was a lifestyle blog/wellness business, clearly meant to present her as a modern, independent woman influencer. Minimal, tasteful, curated, fake as hell. The kind of brand that pretends to be about healing and empowerment, but is really about attention and curated detachment. Wyatt laughed dryly as he clicked through the pages. She really planned this out. I mean, it's evil, but it's kind of impressive. I couldn't even speak. My throat felt tight. I watched him click on a team tab that listed her and, yep, Damon as the creative director. The bio read, "Together, we believe in building a bold, beautiful life. One that aligns with your truth." Your truth. Like my life was just some inconvenient fiction she had to delete. That's when Wyatt looked at me seriously and said, "You want to get revenge or just protect yourself?" I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure. A part of me wanted to flip her whole world upside down, call her out in public, expose her to her clients, her family, even her fake fans. But another part of me just wanted to disappear, to take my dignity and vanish. But then Wyatt opened the file he'd been building, a compiled portfolio of every financial move she'd made tied to me. "I'm giving this to a lawyer I know," he said. "She specializes in asset concealment. If your wife tries to play clean in court, this'll hit her like a truck." And for the first time in weeks, I felt something. Not happiness, not peace, but power. Not the kind that comes from rage or retaliation, just the kind that comes from knowing you're not helpless anymore. When I got home that night, Brielle was watching a rom-com on the couch, feet tucked under a blanket, sipping tea like she was the protagonist in some cozy breakup story. She looked up and smiled faintly. "Hey, I saved you leftovers." I wanted to say so many things. Ask her how long she'd been lying to me. How she could sit across from me and laugh while planning to cut me out of the life I helped build. But I didn't. Not yet. I just nodded and sat across from her silently. Because now I had something she didn't know about. I had the full picture. And she was still acting like I was blind. Let her. Because the next part? She wouldn't see coming. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not just physically, emotionally. I sat at the long polished table in a pressed shirt that didn't feel like mine, next to a lawyer who hadn't even existed in my life 3 weeks earlier. Across from me was Brielle, dressed like she was attending a fashion panel, hair sleek, eyes unreadable, flanked by her attorney like they'd been planning this showdown for months. Maybe they had, but I wasn't the same man she thought I was, the one who'd quietly fold, sign whatever she slid across the counter, and vanish from her clean new life like a whisper. I was still quiet, still polite, but I came armed. The folder Wyatt helped me build landed on the judge's desk like a bomb with a velvet ribbon. Transaction logs, shared account misuse, hidden income streams. The LLC she claimed was just a dream project. The house she tried to say she mostly paid for. The romantic partnership she had legally documented with Damon on that website. Brielle's lawyer stammered. He hadn't seen half of it. She turned to him, whispering furiously, her cool persona cracking, lips pressed thin, jaw twitching like a window about to shatter. I just sat there, watching her unravel without raising my voice. The judge skimmed the evidence and sighed. The kind of sigh that says, I've seen this before, and I'm not impressed. By the time the final decision was read, I had been granted more than a fair share of the assets. My name remained on the deed. The savings had to be split equally, with a full audit of all hidden accounts. Brielle's business? Declared a joint marital asset. She would either have to buy me out, or shut it down. She didn't see that coming. But what hurt her most, and I know this without a doubt, was that I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I didn't try to destroy her. I just stood up, thanked the judge, and walked out with my dignity. And I never looked back. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've moved to a quiet town about 2 hours away. I picked up projects with a small custom woodworking business. The guy who owns it doesn't talk much, just works with his hands, listens to music, and respects peace, which is exactly what I needed. I've stopped checking her socials. Stopped wondering what Damon looks like. Stopped playing back the day she sipped orange juice and told me she didn't love me anymore. Because now I realize something. She didn't stop loving me. She stopped knowing me. She mistook my patience for weakness, my steadiness for stagnation, my quiet for surrender. But she was wrong. I wasn't soft. I was steady. And that steadiness built a new version of me she'll never get to know. Last week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a small envelope with a folded note inside. I thought I'd feel free. Instead, I feel hollow. I miss your calm. I miss your kindness. I miss you. No signature. But I didn't need one. I folded it, placed it in the drawer of my nightstand, and went for a walk. Because when someone chooses to destroy your love and thinks they can rebuild without consequence, that's on them. Me? I'm building something better. And this time, it's just for me.